Hello everyone, welcome to our exciting segment today. We have something special lined up for you. We are going to dive into the future of product lifecycle management as you might know it. And who better to guide us through this journey than experts who live and breathe PLM every single day. Joining us today are 5 leading PLM experts, each with their unique insights and prediction about the trends that will shape the world of PLM in 2024. These are visionaries who will take us on a journey into the future of PLM. Buckle up, it's going to be an exciting ride. First, we have James Keefe, Director of SAP PLM from LeverX.
Thank you, Yash. I'm thrilled to be a part of this panel and excited to engage with the PLM community during these transformative times, although I can't think of a time in my career that wasn't transformative. So I don't consider myself an expert, but rather a participant and advocate for change that has taken place in the past, what is currently unfolding in the market, and what customers are seeking in future functionality to enable optimized processes. I've worked on the customer side for many years as a design engineer, IT configurator, and business process owner. And now, being on the SAP partner side, it's given me an insight into both sides of the equation, so I can relate with customers when I see their requirements and their vision for the future, or in some cases, their lack of a strategy for the future, because I was a customer for a long time. As far as PLM trends or predictions for 2024, I want to talk about 2 elements within digital transformation. The first is data governance, enabling accurate data, and second, designing for sustainability. So I know digital transformation is the latest buzzword, but what does that really mean for you, your company, and industry in general? Of course, there are the pieces that we've all heard about, maybe even been exposed to, or maybe implemented, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things. But at the very core of each one of these technologies is accurate data. So even though data governance and data cleanliness is not a shiny new cool tool, it is the very core that enables everything to work, as well as provide accurate analytics that management and executives rely on. This is, of course, understood and has been discussed in the past. However, I see a much greater effort to utilize PLM to help create data correctly, as well as maintain data over time. Think of accurate data as an asset. When I discuss the benefits of a best-of-suite solution or SAP PLM in general with companies, the first value driver I talk about is minimizing data reentry and error within a seamless process flow. My mantra is to create data once, enrich the information at the appropriate time, utilizing PLM workflow, and then leverage that data through all downstream processes. The second trend is designing for sustainability. When I initially began my career as a design engineer, our objective was to create innovative products that considered ease of manufacture, maintained affordability, and either met or surpassed customer requirements. Then came the push for quality and Six Sigma. In the mid-90s, we were introduced to regulatory compliance. If you wanted to sell products into Europe, your product needed to be RoHS and REACH compliant, as well as numerous other regulations that are continue to be created today. This caused a major impact to both design and procurement, as now you need to account for regulatory requirements and not only the design, but also material sourcing. Which takes us now to sustainability, which is an area of great importance to SAP as well as society in general. Today, we need to not only develop new products that are innovative, low cost, high quality, free from harmful substances, but also minimize the impact on our environment. Government and consumers as well are pushing manufacturers to curb emissions, reduce plastic content, as well as reduce energy consumption. In the future, the sustainability piece will just become standard practice in development, like innovation, cost, and quality. In fact, it will become an integral part of total cost. And how will PLM help enable sustainable products? Well, PLM gives the engineer valuable information on materials and processes to make intelligent design decisions, since there are trade-offs in lowest total product cost when sustainability is factored into the equation. There are new costs that need to be accounted for, such as extended producer responsibility fees, fines, as well as new taxes. Utilizing a PLM platform that provides collaboration across all functional areas is necessary to be able to provide that information. Sustainably designed, built, serviced, and ultimately retired products should be a competitive advantage, not just an overhead cost. Another consideration is brand value that can be negatively impacted with poor environmental decisions. And ultimately, through product innovation with sustainable solutions enabled by PLM, we will be working towards a higher standard of living for everyone. So in conclusion for 2024, I see an increased emphasis on data quality processes enabled in PLM, which support the drive towards digital transformation, enabling the cool, shiny tools to work, as well as a drive towards designing with sustainability in mind.
Thank you, Jim. Let's now hear from Dominik Maier, Senior Vice President, Product and Development and Member of Management Board, DSC Software AG.
Thanks for having me, Yash. I'm very happy to be here today and can share my thoughts within the SAP PLM community and also with our customers. For some years now, the PLM world has been talking about a term, or should I say the buzzword, digital thread. I think the associated topic will continue to gain importance as a general trend in PLM in the next few years. There might be other buzzwords for it, but the topic remains highly exciting and of great relevance for future PLM concepts. But let's take a closer look on the topic of digital thread. So from my point of view, the digital thread is the logical evolution of PLM in a much broader sense. We need to look at PLM in a new way, a way that is not isolated. For me, the digital twin starts before product development. So before engineers start developing a product, a large number of processes and information are relevant for the digital thread. As an example, I would like to mention the early ideas for new products or the definition of requirements in an early phase of product development. This information, together with the actual development results like CAD assemblies, drawings, and so on, then leads to the first digital twin, the digital twin for the engineering. If we now continue with spinning the digital thread, the digital twin for manufacturing is created through production relevant information and processes based on bill of materials, MRP runs, production orders, to name only a few. The whole things continue with the service relevant information and processes to build a digital twin for the service. The digital thread itself is the magic that holds all this information together. It shows you all the links and relations from the very beginning to the very end of the process. SAP recognized this very early and extends the PLM portfolio with hybrid solutions. In such hybrid scenarios, state-of-the-art cloud technologies integrate seamlessly with existing systems. In my opinion, the digital thread must be spun more broadly in the future across company boundaries. On one hand, the collaboration with external companies involved in the product development process must be seamlessly integrated. There are already very advanced capabilities for this in SAP's portfolio. On the other hand, the information from the digital thread must also be passed outside the own company to the customers and consumers of our customers. This becomes very clear when you look at the European Union's digital Product Passport initiative. Here, in the future, information must be provided about compliance, the origin of components, and repair and disassembly possibilities, and so on. That is essential product data that leaves the company together with the product itself. The asset administration shell is another great example of opening up data from the digital thread to the outside world. It is an important part of industry standard for digital twin and Industry 4.0. For this to work smoothly, we will need a standard, a common language like Esperanto for product data. Only with such a language, it is possible to describe components uniquely and make them interchangeable. In addition to the approaches of exposing data to the outside world, I believe it will become increasingly important to better support the ERP near PLM processes. ERP-related PLM information such as plant data, stock overview, other logistical and service data from the digital thread are of high interest. This data will provide valuable insights for product development. I think the future of the digital thread is going to be exciting, and I look forward to it with a great deal of confidence. I believe that the best possible way to do this with SAP applications and technologies, SAP's guiding principle of a highly integrated PLM will become even more important. As a strategic partner of SAP, we will make our contribution and help our customers to develop a future-proof digital thread. Be excited, there are many new topics and solutions for this in the starting blocks.
Thank you, Dominik. Let's now hear from Georg Kube, Head of Industry Data Ecosystem, SAP.
Thank you for the introduction. Another trend that I believe is going to influence the evolution of PLM in a big way is the emergence of industry data ecosystems like Catena-X and Manufacturing-X. Let's go back in time by 10 years. It's 2013, and at Hanover Fair, Industry 4.0 is launched as the initiative to drive digitalization of the manufacturing industries. And while it has become a global success from a messaging and marketing perspective, people are asking the question, so what have we really achieved? What has really changed? And some put it more drastically than others, but the fact is that we are not where we wanted to be in 2013, 10 years after. So now the question is, why is that the case? Why haven't we achieved what we wanted to achieve with digitalization of the manufacturing industry? And I think a core reason is that successful digitalization requires the sharing of data, the trustful, comprehensive sharing of data, and companies are quite reluctant to do that. Because if you share data between the OEM, the supplier, the customer, there may always be a competitor in the mix. And even if it's not a competitor and it's just a business partner, the data that you give him today may be used in a negotiation tomorrow. So people are reluctant to give away data about their products and their processes because they never know how it's going to be used going forward. Now, with the emergence of industry data ecosystem, there are new technologies to share data without actually giving it away, just by granting access for a limited time for a specific purpose. And with that in place, companies now can say, well, I give you the data, but only for what I want to do with you right now and not later. And now suddenly, digitalization scenarios become possible. For example, Manufacturing-X looks at providing industrial equipment that consists of many, many products from different players to shop floors in all industries. Think about CNC machinery from DMG Mori or laser cutting machinery from Trumpf with control units and control cabinets from Rittal controlled by PLCs coming from Siemens or Beckhoff, all working together to run the optimum production for automotive, for CPG, or for food and beverage, you name it. But in order for this to work, everything has to be integrated seamlessly, and it has to run in a smooth way. And this is where PLM comes in. Product Lifecycle Management. The product is everything that I just said, all these products that form a system and which come from different vendors. Lifecycle, spanning from the early design stages all the way through production into operation and then into the dismantling and recycling and remanufacturing part. And the management is not only to manage the build phase to create the product, but almost more importantly, to manage the run phase, the operation phase. Now, today's PLM systems in many ways fall short in doing this. So I think there are three major requirements that PLM systems will have to have in the future to be successful. First of all, they need to be able to connect to these new data standards, the new data ecosystems through the connectors and the technologies that are being developed. Secondly, they need to support open standards because in an environment like this, not everybody will have the same PLM system. Everybody will have their own, but still we need to be able to interchange data seamlessly. So open standards for doing that become a priority. And largely, these PLM systems will have to be able to manage data structures which are much more comprehensive and much more complex than what we have today. And if this is the case, then PLM systems will become the on-ramp, the access point to industry data ecosystems from the product perspective. The product being its physical aspects, digital aspects, and most importantly, also the economic aspects.
Thank you, Georg. Let's now hear from Dominik Metzger, Head of Engineering Digital Supply Chain, SAP.
All right, Yash, thank you so much. And very, very excited to being part of the session today about talent growth and the impact on PLM. And I really want to start the discussion by looking at three major challenges that we see right now happening in the manufacturing markets, and especially in product lifecycle management processes. The first one that I want to talk about is we see a concerning shortage in talent. There is no question that there is currently already a war for talent going on. And the scary number is that this will actually get much, much worse if we look towards 2030, where it's predicted that more than 85 million jobs will be unfulfilled. That's, by the way, roughly the population of Germany, where companies will really struggle to find the right talent for skilled labor. Now, a second dimension I want to put into this is that also customer expectations towards products in the product lifecycle domain are changing. They're getting more, let's say, complex. They're getting more hard to tackle. For example, if we look at individualized products, right? So if I'm the manufacturer of bicycles, I not only have customers that want to customize their bike and have an individualized product, I also need to consider what are those very specific needs that they have. Should the e-bike be light? How long should the engine last? What sustainability footprint should the materials have that I'm buying? Many of those actually conflict with each other. So customers are getting more, having higher expectations towards products. And the third layer I want to put on top is that there's also a generational shift, right? Especially with the Gen Z, which has now reached almost a half or even above half of the workforce, which used to be baby boomers and others. There's, of course, also different expectations that this workforce brings, where a purpose-driven career is key. Aspects such as how can we contribute to sustainability, workplace flexibility, and also continuous learning and education are just really some of the dimensions that matter to Gen Z. There's certainly much more literature and evidence around that domain. But if we combine those three together, and even with the evolving capabilities of artificial intelligence, I'm convinced that especially in the domain of product lifecycle management, and where design and creativity are key currencies, that the workforce will be imperative for the success of manufacturing companies. Now, let's look at some of the strategies that we embrace at SAP, how companies can tackle those challenges. The very first one I want to talk about is the role of user experience in software, in the tools that these people will work in. And to me, it's key to highlight that a user interface, right, the term UI, is actually the wrong term. We should challenge, does a user at all need a user interface? Can I completely outsource and automate some of the more mundane tasks, managing of master data, so especially preparation of data, sharing of data, all of this should be highly, highly automated. And where really a user experience is needed, to use very, very intuitive tooling that, for example, onboarding of new workers, of new skill is accelerated so that we can bring value to companies very, very fast, but also that it's inspiring and fun to work with an application with the help of all the amazing tools that are out there. The second strategy we embrace is, of course, the notion of artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, which we are really bringing into our application as part of our business AI strategy. And I want to quote our board member, Thomas Saueressig, very nicely points out that generative AI is oftentimes a duet between user and technology and not a duel, right? So that means we can really enrich the experience of users, make their work day more exciting, spark new inspirations with the help of generative AI, for example, in product formulation, product ideation, or product requirements processes. And the third strategy I want to talk about is really how can we enrich careers of new workers of Gen Z. Of course, we at SAP embrace sustainability. We truly believe that a continuous learning and let's say a fail-fast culture is absolutely essential. And with our applications, we really focus on all of these pillars together to make product lifecycle management inspiring, exciting, and fun to work with. So with those thoughts, I want to leave you for today. And again, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dominik. Well, what visionary ideas those were. We have heard from some of the best minds in the field, sharing their predictions about the future of product lifecycle management in 2024. We have another special guest joining us, Ismail Serin, head of SAP PLM product management team. So, Ismail, hearing these predictions, how do you see SAP PLM fitting into these trends?
Thank you, Yash. I am excited about the future of PLM. I believe the trends we have discussed today will fundamentally transform the PLM software landscape. All of the trends discussed today have one topic in common. It is all about integration in 2024. And let me explain why this matters. There are three challenges product-centric organizations need to address, and SAP is uniquely positioned to address them: increasing product complexity, regulatory pressure, and supply chain disruptions. Let me explain them a little bit more in detail. The products our customers engineer and formulate are getting more complex because customer needs are changing. And new software innovations disrupt products, both in industrial manufacturing and consumer products. This leads to system landscapes with multiple systems. Trying to harmonize and integrate them can feel like solving a puzzle where every piece is from a different set. Then there's an ever-increasing regulatory pressure all around, especially around sustainability. Companies are tasked with navigating regulations while innovating and maintaining profitability. And let's not forget about unpredictable supply chain disruptions. External forces continually throw curveballs, making the PLM journey even more challenging. All of these challenges result in increased time to market and a significant increase in R&D spends. The trends discussed today will transform the PLM landscape as we know it. As I said in the beginning, integration is the key enabler for all of these trends. The out-of-the-box integrations we develop will enable AI and sustainability scenarios based on an integrated digital thread we develop. This will enable our customers to develop the right product at the right time at the right price.
Thank you, Ismail. Now, predicting the future is no easy task, and only time will tell how accurate our experts' predictions will be. But one thing is clear: change is inevitable, and those who will adapt to it will thrive. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these predictions. Which one do you think will have the most impact? And are there any trends you think our experts missed? Share with us using the comments, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe and share. Thank you for joining us today in this fascinating segment on PLM predictions for 2024. Until next time.